now that basically turned me from being an old earther into a young earth creationist. The whole concept, this is very important, of millions of years comes from interpretation of the geologic strata on the earth. And I'm going to use the Grand Canyon as an example because everyone's seen it. And you can see these alternating bands, light, dark. They're called strata. And in the strata are very fine layers called sedimentary layers. And it's believed that the sediments are laid down through water or wind or something like that. And when you see hundreds of millions of layers, they assume hundreds of millions of years of time to lay them down. And, you know, when I went to school, I was taught the Colorado River wound its way through the canyon, eroded it over tens of millions of years. But this event here, well known, and there are other events, but this event in Mount St. Helens in Washington State in the 1980s is arguably one of the most well-documented catastrophic events in modern history. There were mini earthquakes going on. You can see the mountain venting here, and they knew it was going to explode. And when it did, it blew lumps of rock as big as a city block over 6 miles from the blast site. 1/3 of the mountain disappeared in an instant. But in the aftermath of the initial eruption, okay, it laid down bands of strata. Can you see the lady there for scale? And there's about 20 plus feet here of these sedimentary layers. See them? You can see a close-up, very fine laminations.
Yeah, light and dark again, light and dark.
Conventional way we've been taught to interpret them, one per year. Well, there might be a couple of thousand layers in that band of strata, but you know, they were laid down precisely on June 12, 1980 in just 3 hours.
Wow.
As a result of the catastrophic events of Mount St. Helens. There's the dates for the other two.
So there's actual observable evidence that layers can be laid down very, very quickly.
Exactly. And so here's the thing. When we see one on top of the other, we think sequentially, time. But experimentally, it looks like all these layers can be laid at the same time through just the physics of the granules sorting themselves out and layering themselves. And you know what? When you go back to Mount St. Helens, there are canyons all over the place. And again, the way we've been evolutionized, even as Christians, we think, wow, look at that little river, the North Fork of the Toutle River.
Yeah, that must have been a huge river for millions of years, right?
Exactly. And Ray, when I was exposed to this, it demolished the millions of years for me. And because if it demolished the millions of years of deep time in the rock layers, well, what's in those rock layers? Fossils. If there's no time, then there's no time for evolution to occur. And so that was the real starting point for me. And that's why we have to grapple with this issue of time.